Okay, so I just got done watching the season finale of The Boys Season 2, and wow. I know last week that I said I don't know how this show can get any better. I said last week I don't know how they could top last week's episode, but they went above and beyond in this episode, and it was just incredible. So, before we dive into this episode and break it down and talk about it, if you wouldn't mind, please like and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me if you want to see other things about pop culture. I do anything with pop culture on my channel, so go ahead and subscribe. This is the place for you. Now let's get into it. I'm really excited to talk about this. So the episode opens with a video with Homelander talking about what to do at school if there's a supervillain attack. It's not really important. It's just kind of some fill time to open the episode up. And then they jump in telling everybody that Compound V is going to be used on law enforcement. And this obviously raises some red flags if this is distributed in large quantities to members of the public, even though they are law enforcement. That would be insane, and we don't see that happen in this episode, and I hope we don't see it happen in the future, because who knows what that could lead to. Then we see that Becca is escaping her little lockdown neighborhood that she's in. You see a massive search going on for her, and then it cuts to the boys planning on basically just killing all the Supes, and Starlight and Huey want to take a different route and have somebody testify against Vought, and Butcher gives them the day to go find somebody. Starlight says that she has somebody, and then it cuts to Stormfront and Homelander in Vought Tower talking about the head explosions at the end of last episode, and Stormfront says that she didn't do it, and Homelander clearly didn't do it, and neither of them knew who did it. Stormfront says that she thinks it's Edgar, and then at the time I kind of agreed. I thought that maybe he had something to do with it, but later in the episode we obviously find out that it's not, and that's probably the biggest bomb of the entire episode. But we figure out it's not Edgar and it's not Vought. Then Starlight takes Huey to go see Maeve, and she wants Maeve to testify against Vought. Maeve kind of gets upset, says that hasn't she done enough for Starlight already? She saved her life against Noir. So Maeve says she's not going to do it. That kind of gets that plan for Starlight and Huey came up with. It kind of just blows up in their face. So they're kind of left wondering what are they going to do now. Then we see that Becca comes to Butcher, and she tells him that they took Ryan, and he's asking who. And honestly, I didn't really know what Butcher was going to do at that moment. I kind of thought that he would help her just because of how much he loves her and how much he cares about her, but I didn't really know for sure. And then Edgar goes and meets with the leader of the Church of the Collective, and it kind of looks like Deep is going to get back into the Seven. And when Edgar leaves, we see that A-Train overheard their conversation. He's kind of mad, so I knew that he was going to try to do something against Vought to get back in the Seven, and we later see that that comes true. He does kind of frame Stormfront, but we'll talk about that more in a minute. And then the next important thing that happened is Edgar gets a call that says that William Butcher wants to meet with him. Now, I wasn't expecting this kind of a move from Butcher. I knew he was going to try to find Ryan, but I didn't know he was going to go to the extreme of going to Edgar and coming up with a plan behind the boys' back and behind Becca's back. So this was kind of a bold move for him, something that didn't surprise me because of his personality and his character, but it was unexpected, but it was a really cool part of the episode in my opinion. So when Homelander and Stormfront take Ryan to Planet Vought, that's not really a super important scene, but I wanted to talk about the relationship between Homelander and Ryan. Up to this point, we've really seen that Homelander has no weakness. In Season 1, it was said that his weakness was Stillwell, which obviously turned out to not be true because he killed her. But Ryan is his actual weakness. I have to be honest, I kind of liked the relationship that they had going at the end of last episode, and then for most of this episode. It almost humanized Homelander. I don't like him. I really do hate him. I think that he's a good villain, but it did kind of make me like him a little more, just because it shows that he does care about somebody now, and that he does have a heart, because I really do think that he wants what's best for Ryan. Now, ultimately, he probably wants Ryan to turn out just like him, but he is looking out for his son, and we see later in the episode, when he starts to cry, it's because Ryan is taken away from him. So I kind of liked their relationship. I liked what happened at the end more, but it was a nice touch for Homelander's character to make him not so hateable. And then the scene with the car, in the car between Huey and Starlight, he's talking about his mom and his background. Then A-Train shows up and hands him a file of Stormfront from when she was a Nazi back in Germany, and you don't see all of the stuff that's in the file yet, but when it's later released to the public, you see what all's in it. There's pictures of Hitler, of her with Frederick Vought, and her back in the Nazi regime in World War II, so I knew that A-Train wasn't having a change of heart. I knew he was just doing it for personal gain so that he could get back in the 7. But it was nice to have him help our protagonists. So, the meeting between Butcher and Edgar. Edgar is such a good villain, and like his role, or like Giancarlo Esposito's role in Breaking Bad, he isn't the standout villain. Like, Homelander's obviously the standout villain, and in Breaking Bad, you could debate on who was the standout villain. In my opinion, Walt was the protagonist, but he was also the standout villain. So, but Edgar is such a good villain, and Giancarlo Esposito does such a good job playing him. Exactly what you would want from a character like that, and their meeting really just blew me away. We see that Butcher is going to sell out Ryan to Vought in exchange for him being able to keep Becca, and he obviously doesn't tell Becca this, but at the time I didn't really know what he was going to do. I kind of figured that he would go through with it because he doesn't really like Ryan, because he is Homelander's son, and he loves Becca, but I didn't really know how it was going to go, honestly. And then the scene between Homelander and Ryan when he's talking to him inside the cabin, once again just kind of humanized Homelander. Not much to say about that scene other than it did once again show that Homelander actually does kind of have a heart. So there's not much else to say about that scene. I did think it was funny, however, when Homelander was trying to teach Ryan to do the lasers with his eyes, and he set up a figure of Deep. I thought that was kind of funny. And then everything hit the fan. So the boys lure Stormfront away by leaking all of the Nazi stuff from her file, and the media's going crazy about it. Everybody is just in an uproar about what's been released about her, and this is their chance to strike. So after they do that, they set up these sonic emitters in the woods and set them off. So because of Ryan and Homelander's enhanced hearing, those sonic emitters really mess with their head. So Homelander leaves to go find what is causing the sonic waves, and that's when Billy and Becca get the chance to go in and get Ryan. He's happy to see her, and they're able to go off. And then when they get back, they're not supposed to meet back up with MM and Huey, Kamiko, and Frenchie. They're supposed to go on, but the whole plan got blown up. From that side and from the side with Vought, how Butcher was supposed to call, and that's where Ryan would be. So all the plans got blown up. He went back on all of his plans, said that he was going to send Ryan and Becca to Mallory, and MM was going to drive them, and he was going to confront Homelander. Well, when they start driving away, Stormfront comes back, throws the car off the road, and Butcher runs over there. They're all okay in the car, and then Stormfront has a fight between Kimiko and Starlight, and she's just kind of throwing them around. She breaks Kimiko's neck at one point, but we saw last season that Kimiko is regenerative, so I don't really know if she can die yet, but they have this fight. They're getting thrown around, and I wasn't expecting it. I probably should have been, but Maeve shows up, and when Maeve shows up, the three of them, Maeve, Starlight, and Kimiko, just start going off on Stormfront, and I was so happy because I can't stand Stormfront either, and it was just really nice to see her get her butt kicked for about 2 minutes straight, and then she obviously flew up and escaped. So when Stormfront escapes, she's going off to find Ryan, Becca, and Butcher. Now, she goes in front of them, blasts Butcher out of the way. Becca actually shoves a knife in her eye, and then she's choking Becca. Stormfront's choking Becca. Ryan's trying to get her to stop, and then the big moment happens when Ryan uses his lasers and absolutely fries Stormfront. I mean, he cuts her arms off, her legs, half her face is just burned off, and I was standing up yelling. I was so happy. I'm so glad to see that she died, but obviously there was consequences to that because Becca got hit with one of the lasers in the neck. It looked like her jugular or something, so I didn't know where it was going to go with Butcher. I didn't know what he was going to do. He runs over there, tries to comfort her. She wants him to promise that he'll keep Ryan safe. He says yes, and then he turns around and looks at Ryan and picks up his crowbar, and he just looked like he was about to just annihilate him, and I was kind of scared. We've seen a lot of brutal things in this show. For example, like not even 5 minutes before this happened, literally 2 minutes before this happened, Ryan literally fried Stormfront, and they didn't really hold back on the violence. So it's not out of their league at all to have a grown-up adult character just pulverize a child. So I didn't know what he was going to do. I'm glad he didn't do it, but Homelander comes down and says that Ryan needs to come with him because Ryan just killed Stormfront, and Ryan goes and stands behind Billy. And then Homelander is about to fry Butcher with his eyes, and then Maeve says that he doesn't want to do that, and says that if he doesn't leave them alone, leave her alone, then she's going to release the footage of them on the airplane from season 1. So he's kind of caught in a pickle. He obviously doesn't do anything, so Ryan and Butcher are able to go away. So then we cut to a press conference where Edgar says that Compound V has been put on indefinite hold. Now, if that's true or not, who knows? We know that Vought is pretty notorious for lying, but Homelander says a couple words, and Maeve and Starlight are right there. And this just shows that the boys and Maeve really, and the CIA, obviously with like Mallory, they have Vought in the palm of their hand right now. They can do anything they want with Vought. Vought has really no cards left to play. They're kind of stuck in a corner. So that was a really interesting scene to see that Compound V was put on indefinite hold. And then we cut to the Church of the Collective, where we see that A-Train is put back into the 7. However, Deep is not back in. He obviously gets pretty upset, and then it cuts to a moment between Starlight and Huey, and it's another nice moment, but Huey says that he doesn't want to be clingy anymore, but mentions that he doesn't mean toward her. So I was wondering, what does he mean? Is he going to leave the team? and we find out at the end of the episode he does. He ends up trying to get a job for Victoria, which he ends up getting. And then it cuts to Butcher and Ryan, and they have a pretty nice moment talking. Butcher gives Ryan his necklace that Becca gave him, and he sends Ryan off with Mallory to be protected. She says that they've all had all their charges dropped. They're not criminals anymore. They're free. They can go do whatever they want. We see MM go back to his family. Kimiko and Frenchie are going somewhere. It doesn't show where. And then the big reveal happened. Before we get to the reveal, there was a scene with Homelander, and we're not going to talk about that. So, yeah. So, at this point in the episode, I knew it was basically over, and I was like, I remember thinking to myself, literally 10 seconds before it happened, I was like, so, we still don't know who blew the heads up. So, who was that? And then we see the leader of the Church of the Collective talking to Victoria. And she's been known as a big fighter against Vought. That's her whole campaign is against Vought. And that's why Huey wants to go work for her, because he says he wants to fight Vought the right way. And she's trying to do it legally. So we see he's on the phone with her, and then his head explodes. And I was like, okay, we're going to finally get to see it. And then it cuts outside, and it's her. And I was standing up at this point because I was so hyped about what had just happened in the last 30 minutes of the episode. So I was standing up, and I just put my hand on my head. I was like... and I just sat back down, and it was insane. I couldn't have guessed that in... You could have given me 50 guesses, and she would not have been one of them. So I don't know what kind of role her character has to play in the next season. I don't really know deep down what is she. I mean, she has to be against the boys, because in the last episode when Vogelbaum was going to testify against them, she screwed that all up. She blew up his head and blew up a bunch of other people's heads so that Vought wouldn't get taken down. So I don't know what her role is. I'm not sure if there's anything about her in the comics. I haven't read much of the comics, but I'm really excited for next season already. It's a shame we have to wait another year. So I don't know. I told you that I didn't know how it could get any better than last week, but this just went above and beyond. I gave last week's a 10, and I think it rightfully deserved a 10, but I think this is better, but I can't go above a 10, so I'm going to give this episode a 10 out of 10 as well. Here in a couple days, I think probably Wednesday, I will give a full review on the entirety of Season 2, and I will give a rating on Season 2 out of 10. This was just an incredible episode, and I'm so excited for the next season. I'm so excited to have been able to watch this. And I know a lot of people wanted the bulk release. I loved the weekly release. It built anticipation. I hope they do that again next season. Leave in the comments down below what you thought of this episode. Make sure to stay tuned, probably coming up Wednesday, on my entire Season 2 review. And then probably next Friday, a week from today, I will be ranking every episode in Season 2, all 8 episodes from worst to best. So be on the lookout for that. Please like this video and subscribe if you want to see more pop culture content. Thank you for watching. Keep watching The Boys and keep watching TV.